Blood roared in Ethan Cole's ears as he stood frozen at the door of the penthouse. His breath caught in his throat. The sound of the wind whipping through the high-rise balcony was drowned out by the words that had just left her lips. "I'm not who you think I am," she whispered, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "My real name is Isabella Blackwood." Ethan's heart thudded loudly in his chest. "Blackwood?" he repeated, stunned. "As in Blackwood Corporation?" She gave a small, trembling nod, stepping back into the shadows. Ethan stumbled back as if struck. Blackwood Corporation was his family's greatest enemy, the company responsible for driving his father to ruin. And here she was, the woman he had fallen for, the woman he had taken in from the streets, sheltered, trusted, loved. "You lied to me?" he said hoarsely, unable to hide the betrayal in his voice. Isabella opened her mouth to speak, but the words never came. The door behind Ethan burst open. Security guards rushed in. Alarms blared. A red light blinked on the penthouse wall. She backed toward the balcony railing, desperation in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Ethan," she choked out. "I never wanted to hurt you." And then she was gone, over the edge, into the night. 1 week earlier, it was a rainy Tuesday afternoon in New York City. The streets glistened with fresh rain as people hurried by, umbrellas bobbing like jellyfish. Ethan Cole sat in the back seat of his black town car, eyes locked on the screen of his phone, completely unaware that his life was about to change forever. A puddle splashed against the car as it pulled up outside the headquarters of Cole Industries. Ethan glanced up, noticing a small figure curled under the awning near the building's side entrance. Soaked to the bone, the girl was hugging her knees, her face hidden beneath a mess of tangled dark hair. People walked past her like she didn't exist. He watched her for a moment, something in his chest tightening. Homeless people were nothing new in the city, but something about her seemed different, young, fragile, like she didn't belong on the streets. His driver, Grant, followed his gaze. "Should I call someone to move her along, sir?" Ethan hesitated. "No, wait here." He stepped out of the car, the rain instantly soaking his expensive coat. As he approached the girl, she flinched but didn't look up. "Hey," Ethan said gently. "You okay?" She didn't answer. "I've got a warm place nearby. A meal, dry clothes, no strings, just a little help." She finally looked up then, and for a second he couldn't breathe. Her eyes were the color of honey, deep and watchful. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but all that came out was a whisper. "Why?" He shrugged. "You looked like you needed it." The girl stared at him a moment longer, then slowly nodded. Back at his penthouse, Ethan handed her a towel and watched her from the kitchen as she dried off. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days, quiet, tense, like a deer in headlights. "What's your name?" he asked. "Bella," she replied softly. No last name. She stayed 1 night, then 2, then a week. He gave her a room to sleep in, a wardrobe of clean clothes, and meals she barely touched at first. But slowly, she started to thaw. He found her humming to herself in the mornings, talking to his plants like they were her friends. One night, they watched an old movie together on the couch, and she laughed at the stupidest parts. He hadn't heard laughter like that in a long time. And just like that, Ethan Cole, the youngest self-made billionaire CEO in the city, the man who didn't believe in love, began to fall for the homeless girl he gave shelter to. But Bella had secrets. One night, while Ethan was working late in his office, Bella crept into his study. She moved like she knew what she was looking for. Opened drawers, scanned documents, took pictures on a phone Ethan never gave her. Then, a soft sound behind her. She spun around. Ethan was standing in the doorway, eyes wide with disbelief. "What are you doing?" Bella froze. The phone slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a soft thud. Her face went pale. I can explain." He crossed the room in 2 long strides and picked up the phone. His expression darkened as he saw the pictures she'd taken. Confidential files, financial statements, internal memos. "What is this? Who are you really?" Bella's lips trembled. "I didn't want this, I swear. I had to." "Tell me the truth," he said, voice tight. She swallowed hard. "My name isn't Bella." And just like that, the truth began to unravel. But things hadn't always been this way. The first day she entered his home, she had been afraid to even touch the silverware. She jumped when the microwave beeped. She spoke in whispers like someone was always listening. Ethan, for all his business savvy and hardened edges, found himself drawn to her mystery. She never talked about where she came from or why she was on the streets. When he asked, she changed the subject or told some vague story about running away from a foster home. He let it slide. Maybe he shouldn't have. But it was the little things that drew him in. How she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. How she sat cross-legged on the couch like a kid. How she said thank you every single time he gave her anything, even a glass of water. By the fourth day, he caught himself staring when she wasn't looking. By the fifth, he started making excuses to leave work early just to be home when she was awake. One night, as they stood on the balcony watching the city lights, he turned to her. "You know you can stay here as long as you want, right?" Bella looked up at him, eyes wide. "Why are you being so nice to me?" He thought about it, then said quietly, "Because I think you need someone who sees you." Her breath hitched. That night, she kissed him. It was soft, careful, like a secret shared between two people who had both been lonely too long. From that moment on, everything changed. They became inseparable. Ethan took her to dinner in private restaurants. He bought her a necklace she never took off. When the press caught wind of the mystery girl in his life, he ignored their questions. All he cared about was her. And Bella, she started to look happy. But still, she never told him who she really was. And Ethan never asked again. Until that one night when he caught her in the act. She begged him to let her explain. But Ethan, heartbroken and furious, told her to leave. She packed her things. Tears ran down her cheeks as she whispered, "I never meant to fall in love with you." Then she was gone. The next day, everything exploded. His company email was hacked. Confidential files were leaked online. His competitors pounced. The media storm was relentless. That's when he discovered the truth. Isabella Blackwood, the daughter of Richard Blackwood, CEO of the very company that had destroyed Ethan's father. The heiress who had vanished 2 years ago after a scandal rocked her family. Rumor had it she'd run away, disowning the Blackwood name. And now she was back, and in love with her family's greatest enemy. Ethan couldn't believe it. He didn't know if her feelings had been real, or just another move in a game far bigger than he could see. But one thing was certain, he had to find her, before it was too late. Late one night he got a tip. A safe house in the Upper West Side. Quiet, discreet. He went alone. Heart pounding, he climbed the stairs, knocked on the door. It opened slowly. There she was, standing in the dim light, a small suitcase beside her. Eyes red from crying. "You shouldn't have come," she said. He stepped forward. "You lied to me. You used me." "I didn't plan any of this," she said. "At first, yes, I was sent to spy on you. But I swear, Ethan, I fell in love with you. I didn't know how to stop it." "I don't know what to believe anymore," he said. She reached into her coat pocket and handed him a flash drive. "This has everything. The truth. What my father's really doing. Proof that I've been working against him." Ethan stared at it. Before he could speak, the door behind her slammed open. Men in suits flooded in. Blackwood security. Bella screamed. One of the men lunged at Ethan. And just like that, everything turned into chaos. The room erupted. Ethan barely had time to duck as one of the Blackwood security agents grabbed at him. A fist flew toward his head. He twisted, grabbed a lamp from the side table, and smashed it into the attacker's side. The man grunted and stumbled back. Bella shouted, "Run!" Another agent lunged, trying to pin Ethan to the floor. But adrenaline was pumping through his veins now. He threw a wild punch, then shoved the man into the wall. In the scuffle, the flash drive flew out of Ethan's hand, landing near the door. "Get the drive!" one of the men barked. "No!" Bella shrieked and dove for it. Her fingers closed around the flash drive just as a pair of strong arms yanked her backward. Leave her alone, Ethan roared. He grabbed a chair and slammed it into the nearest man, then bolted toward Bella, who was kicking and screaming as one of the agents dragged her toward the hallway. Ethan tackled the agent to the ground, freeing her. "We have to go now," he shouted. Bella didn't argue. She turned and sprinted for the back exit, Ethan right behind her. They burst through the fire escape door and clambered down the slick, cold metal stairs 2 steps at a time. Rain had started to fall again, and thunder cracked above them like the sky itself was breaking. They hit the alleyway. Ethan grabbed Bella's hand. "Come on." They ran, past trash cans, past the rusted fence, into the night. Sirens wailed in the distance. Somewhere behind them, a door slammed. Yells echoed down the street. Ethan didn't stop to look back. They didn't stop running until they reached an old parking garage. Ethan yanked open a side door and they ducked inside, panting, soaked, and trembling. They collapsed behind a pillar, trying to catch their breath. Bella's eyes darted around nervously. "I think we lost them," Ethan said, though his heart hadn't stopped racing. She looked at him, wide-eyed and shivering. "They were never supposed to find me here." "Start talking," he said, chest heaving. "No more lies." She stared down at the flash drive in her hand, the only thing between them and total disaster. "My real name is Isabella Blackwood," she began. "Daughter of Richard Blackwood, heir to Blackwood Corporation. But I never wanted any of it." "Then why spy on me?" Ethan snapped. She shook her head. "I didn't come to your company to hurt you, I swear. First, yes, I was sent to gather information. My father wanted your expansion plans, your tech blueprints, everything. He knew your company was catching up, and he was afraid. So he sent me in." "You could have applied like a normal person," Ethan said bitterly. "No, that wouldn't have worked. He didn't want me on your team. He wanted me close to you, personally." Ethan's jaw clenched. "So you let me fall for you?" "I didn't let you. It just happened." She looked like she wanted to cry, but held it back. "I was supposed to stay a week, get what I needed and disappear. But then you weren't who I thought. You were kind. You didn't treat me like a threat or a tool. You gave me a room. You listened when I spoke. You cared. And I didn't know how to stop falling for you." Ethan looked away, fists clenched. "I should have told you sooner," she whispered. "You think?" he spat. She flinched. "I wanted to believe I could be someone else. That I could be just Bella." They sat in silence for a long minute. Rain pattered against the concrete around them. Finally, Ethan spoke. "What's on the drive?" "Evidence. Blackwood's illegal buyouts. Fake partnerships. Data theft. I've been collecting it for months. That's why they're after me. My father found out. I didn't just betray his mission. I betrayed him. And you thought giving it to me would fix everything?" "No," she said. "I thought you'd know what to do with it. You're the only one smart enough and brave enough to use it." Ethan stared at the flash drive in her hand. "What do you want from me, Bella?" She looked into his eyes. "I want you to stop my father. Why would I help the girl who broke into my life, lied to my face, and almost got me ruined? Because I'm not your enemy, and neither is the truth." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Ethan stood, pacing the garage. "I have to get this analyzed," he said. "See what's on it." "I know a guy," Bella said quickly. "A hacker. He's been helping me behind the scenes. We can go to him." Ethan paused. "We?" Bella looked down. "I understand if you don't want me around, but if you're going to take my father down, you'll need someone who knows how he thinks. And I want to make this right." Ethan considered this. Every part of him screamed not to trust her. But the flash drive in her hand, her actions tonight, it all pointed to something deeper. "Fine," he said. "But if you lie to me again, I swear." "I won't," she said quickly. "Not again." They left the garage just before dawn. Bella led Ethan through a maze of backstreets and tunnels until they reached an old bookstore. Inside, hidden behind a false shelf, was a spiral staircase leading to a dusty basement full of wires, screens, and blinking servers. A young man with wild hair and even wilder eyes sat at the center of the chaos, typing furiously. When he looked up, he grinned. "Bella, thought you were dead." "Not yet," she said. "Phoenix, meet Ethan." "The Ethan?" Mr. Billionaire boy wonder. Phoenix gave an impressed nod. "Heard a lot about you." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Not sure I'm flattered." Bella handed over the flash drive. "Can you decrypt it?" Phoenix popped it into a drive. "Give me 20 minutes and a lot of coffee." While Phoenix worked, Ethan and Bella sat in silence. The air between them was thick with tension. Then Bella said, quietly, "Thank you for not walking away. I haven't decided if I regret it yet." She nodded. Phoenix's voice broke the silence. "Bingo!" He turned his screen toward them. Lines of code, names, payments, signatures, stolen tech, bribed officials, false contracts, all linked to Blackwood Corporation. Ethan leaned forward, stunned. This is everything." "Told you," Bella said. Phoenix added, "One more thing. There's a file here, untitled, encrypted differently." He clicked it open. A video, a dark room, a voice. Richard Blackwood's voice. "Keep an eye on her. If she steps out of line, we take her down." Then a chilling sentence. "She's disposable." Bella's breath caught. Ethan turned to her. "You were never just a spy," he said slowly. "You were a pawn." Bella was pale, shaking. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't know he planned to." Ethan stood, eyes blazing. "We take him down. For good." Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the building. Phoenix screamed. "What they?" The lights flickered. Dust filled the air. Screams came from the street above. Ethan grabbed Bella and yanked her toward the stairs. "They found us." They burst out of the bookstore just as a second blast hit. Flames licked up the side of the building. People were running. Sirens screamed. Ethan turned in a full circle, searching for danger. But Bella wasn't next to him anymore. She was gone. "Bella!" Ethan shouted, his voice lost in the chaos. Smoke choked the sky above the street. Alarms blared from nearby buildings, and people screamed as they fled from the crumbling bookstore. Firefighters shouted orders, trying to control the blaze, but Ethan didn't care. He pushed through the smoke and panicked crowd, scanning every face. No sign of her. "Bella!" he yelled again, coughing from the ash and dust swirling in the air. His heart pounded harder with every passing second. First the ambush at the safe house. Now a bombing. This wasn't random. This was a warning. And they'd taken her. Phoenix stumbled out behind him, blood dripping from a cut on his temple, carrying a charred laptop in one hand. I tried to stop them," he wheezed. "They came through the back. Gas mask. Full gear." Grabbed her and ran. Ethan grabbed his shoulders. "Who?" Phoenix shook his head. "Didn't see their faces. But I think they were Blackwood's men." Ethan's hands tightened into fists. "They tried to kill us." "No," Phoenix croaked, eyes wide with fear. "They tried to erase us." Ethan looked at the burning building, then at the damaged laptop in Phoenix's hand. The flash drive had been inside. All the data, all the evidence, gone. He stared into the fire, a knot forming in his chest. "They think they've won," he said through clenched teeth. "They think they can just disappear her." Phoenix coughed. "You think they'll kill her?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "Not yet. If she was disposable, they'd have done it already. But my guess? They'll use her, hurt her, break her. And if she won't cooperate, then—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The fire glared like a red wound behind them. Ethan turned to Phoenix. "We need to move. Now." Phoenix looked around. "To where?" "To the one place Blackwood doesn't control. My territory." Back at Cole Tower, the glass skyscraper gleamed under the rising sun, its security tighter than a vault. Ethan stormed inside with Phoenix limping behind him, past confused assistants and alarmed executives. "Cancel all meetings," he barked at his assistant. "Lock down the building. And get me Sawyer." Sawyer was his head of internal security, a retired special forces captain with a jaw like stone and eyes that missed nothing. Minutes later, Sawyer entered the boardroom. "You called?" Ethan laid it out fast. "Blackwood kidnapped someone, tried to kill me, destroyed evidence. I want her found, alive, and I want them to know they messed with the wrong man." Sawyer didn't blink. "Do I have full discretion?" "All of it." Phoenix handed over what was left of the laptop. "I managed to salvage some files. Not much, but maybe enough to trace where the attackers went after they left the shop." Sawyer grabbed the laptop. "I'll get my team on it." As soon as he left, Ethan dropped into his chair and buried his face in his hands. Bella was gone. He didn't even know where to look first. And part of him still didn't know what hurt more: that she had lied to him from the start, or that he trusted her anyway. Bella woke with a jolt. Her wrists were tied. Her head pounded. The air smelled like gasoline and metal. She was in a warehouse. The lights above flickered weakly, casting long shadows across the floor. A few crates sat stacked in the corners. The windows were boarded up. And sitting across from her, calm as ever, was her father, Richard Blackwood, tall, impeccably dressed in a three-piece suit. His silver hair slicked back. His mouth curled into a smirk. "Hello, Isabella," he said. She glared at him. "Don't call me that. You don't get to make demands, little girl. Not after what you've done." Bella struggled against the ropes, but they were tight. "You lied to me," she spat. "You said you just wanted information. You said I wouldn't be hurt. And I never said anything about betraying your own family. I'm not part of your family." He chuckled. Still so dramatic, always trying to run, to be good, to be free. He stood and slowly circled her. "You fell for that boy, didn't you?" Bella didn't answer. "I warned you about people like him. Ethan Cole is just like his father. Righteous, stubborn, soft. That's why the old man lost everything. And Ethan will too. Ethan is 10 times the man you ever were," she hissed. Richard's hand lashed out. Slap. Bella's head snapped to the side, her lip splitting open. He leaned in. "You don't get to talk back, Isabella." Blood ran down her chin, but she smiled. "You're scared." His eyes darkened. "Of what? You think he can't stop you? You think I didn't make copies of everything?" His smile faltered for the briefest second. Then he laughed. "No one's coming for you, and even if they are, they'll be too late." He straightened, adjusted his cuffs. "You'll be staying here until I decide what to do with you. Maybe I'll parade you in front of the press. Show them how your hero boyfriend ruined you." "You'll regret this," she said quietly. Richard didn't respond. He walked to the door, knocked twice, and a guard opened it. Before stepping out, he looked back once. "You were always a disappointment." The door slammed shut. Bella sagged in the chair, eyes filled with silent rage. But inside her coat, sewn into the seam, she could still feel the edge of something hard and cold. A hidden tracker Ethan had once slipped into her clothes, just in case. She hoped it still worked. She hoped he was coming. Back at Cole Tower, the tension was thick. Phoenix had narrowed down the attacker's getaway van. Surveillance footage from a nearby traffic camera caught a blurry shot of the plate. Sawyer leaned over the screen. "Warehouse. Edge of the city. Old rail yard. It's not registered under any company name, but we've tracked activity there. Security drones. Guards. Perfect place to keep someone off-grid." Ethan stared at the screen. He saw Bella's face in his mind. Blood on her lip. Fear in her eyes. He stood. "I'm going." Sawyer stepped in front of him. "You're the CEO of a billion-dollar empire. You don't storm enemy warehouses." Ethan looked him dead in the eye. "I do now." Sawyer nodded slowly. "Then you're not going alone." Within the hour, a black SUV roared through the city. Inside were Ethan, Sawyer, Phoenix, and 2 ex-military men from Cole Industries' private security force. They reached the warehouse just after dark. Rain fell again. Thunder rolled. Sawyer handed Ethan an earpiece. "You sure about this?" "I'm not leaving without her." The warehouse loomed ahead like a sleeping beast. They slipped through the back, weapons ready. Silent. Focused. Inside, guards paced the walkways. Men in suits smoked cigars and watched monitors. But they didn't see the shadows creeping in. One by one, Ethan's team took them down silently, quickly. Then they found her, tied to a chair, blood on her lip. I shut. "Bella," Ethan whispered. Her eyes flew open. "Ethan?" she breathed. He ran to her, untied her wrists, and caught her just before she collapsed. "You came," she whispered. "Always." Suddenly, gunfire. One of the guards had seen them. "Move!" Sawyer shouted. Everything exploded into chaos. Bullets tore through crates. Sparks flew from the lights. Ethan pulled Bella behind cover while his men fired back. She clutched his arm. "Ethan, behind you!" Ethan turned and saw Richard Blackwood step out from the shadows, gun in hand. "I warned you," he said coldly. Then he fired. Bang. The gunshot echoed like thunder through the warehouse. Bella screamed. Ethan crashed backward, his shoulder exploding in pain as the bullet tore through him. He hit the ground hard, vision blurring, breath stolen from his lungs. Heat spread fast from the wound. His mind screamed at him to move, to fight, to get up, but his body didn't listen. "Ethan!" Bella crawled to him, dragging herself across broken concrete, ignoring the chaos and bullets flying overhead. "No, no, no!" she sobbed, pressing her hands to the growing patch of red soaking through his shirt. "Stay with me. Please, stay with me." He tried to speak. His mouth moved, but no sound came. Then another gunshot. Bella flinched, her body shielding his, expecting pain. But it never came. She opened her eyes to see Richard Blackwood stumbling backward, eyes wide. Blood bloomed across his chest. Behind him, Sawyer lowered his weapon with ice in his eyes. "That's for trying to kill my boss," he growled. Richard collapsed to the floor, unmoving. All around them, the gunfire had stopped. Blackwood's guards were either down or had fled into the night. Ethan's team secured the area with practiced precision, but none of that mattered to Bella. "Call an ambulance," she screamed. Sawyer was already on it. Phoenix knelt beside them a moment later, pale and breathless. "We've got to stop the bleeding now or—" Bella ripped off her outer shirt and pressed it harder into Ethan's wound. "Don't you die on me," she whispered, tears dripping from her chin. "I swear, Ethan, if you die, I'll never forgive you." He groaned softly, blinking slowly. "You're bossy. When I'm shot." She let out a wet laugh. "Shut up and stay awake." The ambulance arrived minutes later, sirens splitting the night. Ethan was rushed into the back, Bella refusing to let go of his hand the entire time. Paramedics shouted instructions. IVs were hooked in, oxygen mask pulled over his face. Bella sat beside him, eyes never leaving his pale face. "You're going to be okay. Do you hear me? You have to be." As the ambulance tore through the city toward the hospital, Bella leaned down close to Ethan's ear. "I'm not letting you go. Not now. Not after everything." But deep inside, a new fear was growing. Because the damage Richard Blackwood had caused went beyond just bullets and betrayal. She'd killed her father. She was no longer just the girl who ran away. She was the girl who brought down the king, and now everyone would be coming for her. Ethan woke to the sound of beeping. His body felt like it had been dragged through a war zone, and maybe it had. His shoulder throbbed like it had a heartbeat of its own. The lights above were too bright, the sheets too stiff. A hospital. He blinked, trying to focus. Someone was sitting beside him, head resting on the edge of the bed, her fingers wrapped tightly around his. "Bella," he rasped. Her head jerked up instantly. Her eyes were rimmed red, but her smile bloomed like sunlight after a storm. "You're awake," she said, breathless. He smiled weakly. "You're still here. Where else would I be?" She brushed hair from his forehead gently, like she was scared he'd shatter. "You scared me. I scared myself," he muttered. She laughed, half sob, half joy. Then her smile faded. "I have to tell you something." He turned his head toward her slowly. I killed him. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Richard. She nodded. He was my father, and I let it happen. No, I wanted it to happen. After everything he did, Her voice broke. I feel numb, like I should cry, or scream, but I don't feel anything. He reached out with his uninjured hand and placed it over hers. You feel what you feel. He used you, hurt you, lied to you your whole life. What happened wasn't your fault. But I made choices. I lied to you. I played a game I didn't understand. And you tried to fix it. She looked at him with glassy eyes. Do you forgive me? Ethan didn't answer right away. Then, with a weak smile, he said, Yeah, I do. Bella exhaled sharply and leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. I know. They stayed that way until a nurse came in and shooed her out so Ethan could rest. Bella didn't argue. She stepped out into the hospital hallway and leaned against the wall, trying to catch her breath. That's when she saw them. 2 men in suits, watching her. They weren't police. They weren't hospital staff. And the way they were whispering into their earpieces made every instinct in her scream run. She turned back toward Ethan's room, only to find another man blocking the hallway. She backed away slowly, then bolted. Target is fleeing. One of the men said calmly into his mic, proceeding to intercept. Bella ran. Down the hall. Around a corner. Past a nurse's station. She shoved open a side door and burst into a stairwell, taking the steps 2 at a time. Her legs screamed. Her chest burned. Outside, the rain had started again. She crashed out into the parking lot behind the hospital and ducked behind a car, heart thundering. What now? They knew she was here, and if Richard Blackwood was dead, then someone else had taken control. Maybe someone worse. She pulled out her phone, the one Phoenix had given her, and quickly messaged him. They found me. I'm outside the hospital. Need help. Now. Seconds later. Phoenix. On my way. Don't move. Bella crouched there, every muscle trembling, every breath short and shallow. She had tried to do the right thing. But the game wasn't over, and she was still a target. Then a voice behind her. You really thought you could win? She spun, and saw a face she hadn't seen in 2 years. Her mother, Vivian Blackwood. Elegant, cold, alive. Bella's blood ran cold. You're supposed to be dead, she whispered. Vivian smiled. So are you. Then she raised a silenced pistol and aimed it directly at Bella's head. The click of the pistol's safety being switched off sounded louder than thunder in Bella's ears. Her mother's eyes were sharp and empty. No warmth, no hesitation. Why? Bella breathed, taking a trembling step back. You were gone. Dead. I saw your grave. Vivian Blackwood's lips curled into a cruel smile. That's what your father wanted everyone to believe, especially you. Bella's heart pounded as she kept her hands slightly raised, trying to stall. You faked your death? I was forced to disappear, Vivian said, voice smooth like glass. Your father couldn't handle having someone in the family who disagreed with his methods, so he made me vanish. But I've been watching. And you've made quite a mess. Tears welled in Bella's eyes, half from fear, half from heartbreak. You're alive. And instead of helping me, you're pointing a gun at me? Vivian tilted her head. Oh, darling, don't be dramatic. This isn't personal. It's business. You've leaked secrets, cost the company millions, got your father killed. I can't exactly let that go unpunished, can I? You hated him, Bella cried. You told me when I was little, when he wasn't listening, you told me he was a monster. Vivian's eyes flickered. For a moment there was something behind them. Regret? Sadness? Then it was gone. You're right, she said. I did hate him, but hate makes people cold. And cold people survive. Bella's breath shook. So this is what surviving looks like? Killing your own daughter. Vivian took a step forward. And that's when Bella did the only thing she could. She ran. Vivian fired. The silencer muffled the shot, but the bullet hit the car behind Bella as she dove behind it. Glass exploded. The windshield shattered. Bella scrambled low and fast, weaving through cars, her legs burning. Her mother was moving too, calm and steady, stalking her through the lot like a hunter. Another shot. It missed by inches. Bella reached into her pocket, Phoenix's device. The emergency beacon. She pressed and held the red button. A small light blinked. "Come on," she whispered. "Come on, Phoenix." Another shot grazed her shoulder. She screamed, fell hard, pain tearing through her arm. She turned and saw Vivian standing above her, gun aimed directly at her forehead. Vivian's eyes were unreadable. "I warned Richard once. We should have raised you to be ruthless." Bella stared up at her, heart ready to burst. "You raised me to survive," she whispered. "So I will." Crash. A car roared into the lot from the far end, black, armored, headlights off. It skidded to a stop between Bella and her mother. The door flew open. "Get in," Phoenix shouted. Bella didn't wait. She dove inside, clutching her bleeding arm. The door slammed shut and Phoenix hit the gas. Vivian fired again. A bullet cracked the back window. Phoenix swerved hard. "Who the hell was that?" he yelled, eyes wide. "My mother," Bella gasped. Phoenix nearly choked on air. "You're what? I thought she was dead." "She's not," Bella said, voice shaking. "And she's worse than Richard ever was." Back in the hospital, Ethan had awakened to chaos. Nurses were shouting. Security guards swarmed the hallways. Police were questioning staff. And Bella was gone. Sawyer stormed into the room just as Ethan was trying to sit up. "Where is she?" Ethan rasped, trying to rip out the four. "Gone," Sawyer said grimly. Security footage shows her running from the parking lot. "And get this, we caught a woman on camera aiming a gun at her." Ethan froze. "What woman?" "Looks like..." Sawyer paused, hesitant. "Vivian Blackwood." "That's impossible. She's dead." "Apparently not." Ethan's mind spun. First Richard, now Vivian. It was like the Blackwood family had risen from the grave just to destroy them both. He pushed off the bed, staggering slightly. "You need to lie down," Sawyer said. Ethan shook his head. "No time. I need to find her." "She triggered the beacon," Sawyer said. "Phoenix picked her up." Ethan's eyes burned with urgency. "Then let's find them before someone else does." Phoenix's safe house wasn't much more than an abandoned warehouse with a few extra locks and a lot of tech. Bella collapsed onto a torn couch, her arm wrapped in a blood-soaked towel. "You're lucky it just grazed you," Phoenix said, cutting away the fabric to clean the wound. "Another inch and..." He didn't finish. Bella stared at the ceiling. "She looked me in the eye like I meant nothing to her. I mean, she is a Blackwood. I am too," Bella whispered. "And it terrifies me." Phoenix glanced at her. "You're not like them. You've proven that." But she didn't answer, because she wasn't sure. All this time, she thought she'd escaped the Blackwood legacy. She thought she'd buried that part of her life with her father's lies. But it was still inside her. The blood, the name, the darkness. And now her mother had returned to finish what Richard started. She winced as Phoenix patched her up. "We need to disappear." "Ethan won't let that happen," Phoenix said. "He's probably tearing apart half the city looking for you." Bella's heart squeezed. "He got shot because of me. He chose to come after you." Bella fell silent again. Just then, a soft beep came from Phoenix's computer. Someone was calling. He turned the screen. Ethan's face appeared. Tired, pale, determined. "Bella." Her voice caught. "Ethan. You okay?" I'm alive. That's enough for now." He looked to Phoenix. "Where are you?" Phoenix rattled off coordinates. Ethan nodded. "I'm coming to you. We're not running anymore." Bella whispered. "What are you going to do?" Ethan's eyes were steel. "End this." It was nearly midnight when Ethan arrived. Bella rushed to him, ignoring the pain in her arm. He hugged her tight, his good arm wrapping around her like he'd never let go again. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. "You'll never lose me." She looked up at him. You know what this means, right? Vivian won't stop. If she has control of Blackwood now, she'll come at you with everything. Let her try, Ethan said. We have something she doesn't. What's that? The truth. And each other. Phoenix cleared his throat awkwardly. Sorry to interrupt your very intense couple moment, but, I just hacked into Blackwood Corp's internal server. They both turned. You what? Bella blinked. Phoenix grinned. Yeah. Turns out the Blackwoods got lazy after Richard died. Security's all over the place. And guess what I found? He clicked a folder open on screen. Files filled the page, project code names, secret acquisitions, off-book operations. But one word stood out. Project Nix. Ethan leaned forward. What is that? Bella's eyes widened. I've heard of it. It was the one thing my father kept hidden from everyone. Even the board didn't know. Phoenix clicked again. A new screen opened. Blueprints, names, photos, and video of experiments. Holy, Ethan whispered. Bella's face went pale. They weren't just stealing technology, she said. They were creating something dangerous. Phoenix scrolled to the bottom. And there, stamped in bold red letters, final phase initiated, March 28th. That was 4 days from now. Phoenix looked up slowly. Whatever this is, it's coming. Fast. Ethan met Bella's eyes. This just became bigger than us. And then the lights in the warehouse flickered. Once, twice, and went out. All three of them froze. A soft voice echoed from the shadows. I told you we weren't finished. Vivian Blackwood stepped into the light, flanked by a new breed of Blackwood guards in black combat armor. Guns raised. Bella's blood turned to ice. And she realized something chilling. Her mother didn't come to kill them. She came to recruit them. Bella stood frozen as her mother stepped fully into the room, flanked by men in dark tactical armor. Faces hidden behind visors, weapons steady, eyes fixed on Ethan, Phoenix, and her. Vivian Blackwood, untouched by the rain outside, pristine as ever in a sleek black coat, wore a ghost of a smile on her lips, cool, confident, and terrifying. Still breathing, I see, she said, looking first at Bella, then at Ethan. Impressive. Most people don't survive crossing me. You've earned a conversation. Ethan stepped protectively in front of Bella, wincing slightly from his healing shoulder. I'm not interested in anything you have to say, he said. Vivian raised an eyebrow. You should be. You three have stumbled onto something far bigger than you realize. I didn't come here to fight. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be bleeding out. Phoenix muttered under his breath. I vote we shoot her anyway. Vivian chuckled. Still the impulsive one, aren't you, Phoenix? No wonder you never made it past junior development at Blackwood. Phoenix blinked. How do you even know? Oh, sweetheart. I know everything, especially about people who've betrayed my family. Bella stepped forward, anger simmering in her chest. Then say what you came to say and leave. Vivian's eyes glinted. Very well. I came to offer you a seat at the table. The real one. Bella frowned. What? You wanted to bring down the Blackwood legacy, but you didn't understand it. We're not just about money, or tech, or power. We're shaping the future, what people see, what they believe, what they are. Vivian's voice lowered, like she was letting them in on a secret. Project Nix isn't about business. It's about evolution. You're insane, Ethan said. Vivian ignored him. Her eyes were locked on Bella. Your father only scratched the surface. He lacked vision. But you could be more. You could lead. With me, we can end the world as it is and rebuild it in our image. Bella's blood ran cold. You kidnapped me. You tried to kill me. Vivian's expression didn't change. A test. And you passed. You shot at your own daughter and call it a test? No, Vivian said calmly. I missed on purpose. You had to see what it felt like to be prey. Now I need you to become the predator. Phoenix made a gagging sound. I think I just threw up in my mouth. Vivian's hand shot up, and one of her soldiers cracked Phoenix across the face with the butt of a rifle. He hit the floor with a grunt. "Stop!" Bella cried, rushing to Phoenix's side. He groaned, blood running from his temple. "She's worse than your dad." Vivian turned back to Bella, her tone now ice. "I'm giving you a choice. You join me and Project Nick's lives. You refuse and you watch everything and everyone you care about burn. Ethan, Phoenix, even your little hacker friends. I know where they are. I know everything." Bella's chest rose and fell quickly. "You're bluffing." Vivian stepped forward slowly. "Am I?" She pulled out a tablet from her coat and tapped it. A video began to play on the screen. A hidden camera view. A small hacker hideout somewhere underground. Bella recognized it instantly. It was one of the safe spots she and Phoenix had used weeks ago. The camera panned. Inside were two of Phoenix's closest allies, Lou and Kim, tied to chairs. A man stood behind them, masked. Vivian pressed another button. Lou screamed as electricity coursed through his chair. "No!" Phoenix cried out, struggling to get up. Vivian clicked again, and the video stopped. "You have 1 hour to decide," she said. "Then I return. With consequences." She turned on her heel, her guards following like shadows. The warehouse door slammed shut behind her. Silence returned. The three of them stood in the dim emergency lighting. The air felt heavier than before, tighter, like it was closing in. Phoenix stumbled to a chair, holding a cloth to his bleeding head. "She's not bluffing. That was live. Real time." Ethan cursed under his breath. "We should have killed her when we had the chance." Bella shook her head, her voice cracking. "She's gone completely mad. She wants you to lead with her," Ethan said slowly. "Why?" Bella swallowed hard. "She always said I was like her. I thought she meant stubborn, independent. But now I think she saw something darker in me. Something I've been trying to bury my whole life." "You're not her," Ethan said firmly. "I'm still a Blackwood," Bella whispered. "That blood is in me." "No," Ethan said, stepping closer. "That name might be in your veins, but it's not who you are. You made a choice. You ran. You fought. You tried to expose them. That's who you are." Phoenix stood shakily. "Okay, romantic speeches are great, but we have 1 hour before Mommy Dearest returns with a flamethrower. What do we do?" Ethan's eyes burned with determination. "We fight. With everything we've got." Bella hesitated. "We don't even know what Project Nix is." Phoenix limped over to his laptop. "Well, we better figure it out. Because whatever it is, it goes live in 4 days. And if Vivian wants Bella to lead it, it's not a cooking show." He began typing furiously. "There was one file I didn't get to open. 2 encrypted. But now, I'm mad, bleeding, and hyped on adrenaline." Lines of code flew across the screen. Minutes passed. Bella paced. Ethan checked the windows. Then Phoenix froze. Guys." They both turned. "I got in." On the screen was a file named Nix Protocol Human Interface Testing. Phoenix clicked it. Videos began to play. A man strapped to a chair. Wires in his skull. Voiceovers. Cognitive sync at 67%. Subject is resisting. Injecting override serum. We need full compliance. The man on the screen screamed, then slumped forward. Phoenix clicked another. A woman this time. Her face looked gone. Hollow. Her eyes glowed faintly blue. Subject 13 ready. Awaiting remote command. Bella covered her mouth. "They're building human weapons," Ethan whispered. "Mind control. Behavioral programming. Tech-enhanced obedience." "Soldiers," Phoenix said. "No fear. No emotion. Just loyalty to one command system." Bella's hands were shaking. "And she wants me to control them. She wants a queen to her hive," Ethan said, his voice low. Phoenix clicked one last file. Candidate 0I. Blackwood. A photo of Bella filled the screen. Notes underneath. Highest cognitive compatibility. Emotional unpredictability. Potential threat to protocol unless bound by familial loyalty. They had planned this. From the beginning. Bella stumbled back. I was never supposed to be free. This whole time, I was being prepared. Ethan stepped forward, took her hands. Then let's give them something they didn't prepare for. Like what? He looked at Phoenix. Phoenix grinned. We hijack Project Nyx. We rewrite the protocols. We turn the entire system against Vivian. But it's gonna take every hacker we've got. Bella blinked. You said Lou and Kim are still alive? If we move fast enough, maybe. Ethan looked between them. Then we break into Blackwood Corporation. We hit the server at the source. Bella nodded slowly. Okay, let's take back everything they stole. And then the lights flickered again. This time it wasn't Vivian. It was the building's emergency broadcast system. A voice crackled through the intercom. Robotic. Cold. Initiating Nyx protocol. Phase 1. Global sync in 96 hours. Then a pause. And a final, chilling sentence. Welcome, Candidate 0. Begin calibration. Bella's spine went cold. Somewhere, in a lab far away, something had awakened. And it was calling her. The warehouse filled with silence so complete, it felt like the world had stopped breathing. Bella stood frozen in front of the screen, her reflection staring back at her through her own photograph. Candidate 0. The voice still echoed in her ears. Welcome, Candidate 0. Begin calibration. What does that mean? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Phoenix's fingers flew across the keyboard, eyes wide with panic. It's not just a message. That wasn't a recording. That was live. The system just identified you, confirmed your location. You're connected now. Ethan turned toward Bella. Connected how? Phoenix didn't look up. Like Wi-Fi. But for people. The tech in Project Nyx is based on neural interface frequencies. If she's the original candidate and her brainwaves were used as a blueprint, the system knows her. It's like, she's the key. Bella stumbled backward. No, I didn't do anything. I didn't touch anything. You didn't have to, Phoenix muttered. Your presence near this terminal might have triggered the beacon. Or Vivian, did it remotely. She activated you. Ethan grabbed Bella's hand. You're not a weapon. You're you. Whatever they're trying to turn you into, we fight it. But Bella was trembling. Her thoughts were swimming. Her head suddenly ached, like pressure building behind her eyes. And then it happened. She heard something, not with her ears, in her mind. A low hum, mechanical, pulling, like a voice in a dream calling her underwater. Do you hear that? She whispered. Phoenix and Ethan exchanged a worried glance. Hear what? Ethan asked. Bella's breathing quickened. It's like a machine inside me. Phoenix was now sweating. Okay, no offense, but I think you need to lie down. This is either psychological panic or the start of something really bad. Bella clutched her head. Make it stop, please. Then suddenly, every light in the warehouse blazed bright white. Bella screamed. She dropped to her knees, hands over her ears, even though there was no sound, just that hum. Louder now, sharper, piercing. Her body seized for a second, then collapsed. Bella! Ethan caught her just before she hit the concrete. Phoenix rushed over, yanking open a med case. Her vitals are spiking, heart rate off the charts, brain activity is everywhere. Ethan held her tight. She's burning up. What's happening to her? I don't know, Phoenix shouted, checking her pupils. She's not unconscious, but she's not responding. It's like her mind's been hijacked. Bella's fingers twitched. Her eyes fluttered open, but they were different. No longer hazel. They glowed faintly blue. Ethan? She whispered. I'm here, he said, holding her tighter. I can see things. What do you see? Phoenix asked. Bella's gaze turned glassy. Codes, systems, locations. It's like I'm inside their network. Ethan's blood ran cold. Vivian is using her. Right now. No, Bella said suddenly. Not using me. She wants me to see this. She's showing me something. Her voice changed slightly, flatter, like she wasn't entirely herself. I see a lab, underground, 9th District. Coordinates: 40.7488 degrees north, 73.9854 degrees west. There's a chamber. 10 no 12 subjects. All linked. Controlled. The signal's coming from there. Phoenix's jaw dropped. She's mapping the servers in her head. Ethan. She's synced. Bella blinked, the blue glow in her eyes flickering. She thinks this will tempt me, that if I see the power, I'll want it. Ethan leaned close. Do you? Bella stared into his eyes, and this time her voice was fully her own. No. Then she fainted in his arms. Hours later, she woke on a makeshift bed. Her head ached, but the hum was gone. Phoenix was still at the monitors. Ethan was sitting beside her, watching her wake like he'd never looked away. Hey, she said groggily. Hey, he replied, brushing hair from her face. I blacked out. You tried to fight an AI inside your brain, he said. I'd say you earned it. She sat up slowly. I saw everything. Their lab, the command center, their weapons. They're ready to go. The final phase starts in 4 days, but the systems are already running. If they go live, we're done. Society doesn't even know what's coming. Phoenix spoke without turning. You're the only one who's ever linked to the core protocol and lived, which means you're our one chance to override it. Bella stared at him. So you're saying we use the fact that I'm synced to hack them? Ethan leaned in. Can you do that? I don't know, she admitted, but I have to try. Phoenix finally turned around. I've been thinking, this isn't just about shutting it down. It's about exposing it. We need the world to see what Blackwood has built. You mean leak the entire system? Ethan asked. Phoenix nodded. The protocols, the videos, the candidate trials, everything. We blasted onto every screen, every device, all at once. Bella took a breath. If I go back in Link again, I might be able to access the mainframe, but I'll need time, and you'll have to protect me. Ethan reached for her hand. I'll never leave your side. Bella squeezed his hand. Then let's finish this. Phoenix stood. We move at dawn, and we hit the heart of the monster. The next morning, they arrived at the coordinates Bella had spoken in her trance. A decaying industrial block. Gated. Guarded. Blackwood's hidden facility. They scouted from a rooftop. I count at least 30 guards, Phoenix whispered. Turrets. Drones. This isn't just a lab, it's a fortress. Can we breach it? Ethan asked. Not unless we want to die in under 5 minutes. Bella stared at the gates, her voice calm. I have another way in. They turned to her. Vivian built this place using my father's original plans. He always used redundancies, secret tunnels for escape. There's one near the subway line, under the old tech campus. We can slip in that way. Ethan nodded. Then let's go. Minutes later, they descended into the tunnels beneath the city. It was dark, wet, silent. Bella led the way, memory guiding her feet. At the end of the tunnel, a steel door loomed. Phoenix cracked the lock. They slipped inside. Beyond the door was a hallway of glowing glass and pulsing blue lights. The core lab. Bella stopped. Her breath hitched. At the center of the room, the interface chair. Cables coiled around it like a mechanical spider. Ethan looked at her. Are you sure? No, she whispered. But I'm doing it anyway. She stepped toward the chair. Phoenix handed her a neural rig, modified to intercept the signal. Ethan kissed her forehead. I've got your back. She sat. The cables slithered toward her scalp. Sync initializing. A cold voice echoed. And just like that, Bella was gone. Her body went still. Her eyes turned blue. Inside her mind, a voice spoke. Welcome back, Candidate Zero. You're ready now. But Bella smiled inside the storm of data. Not for what you think. She reached out with her thoughts and grabbed the entire system by its throat. Alarms screamed. Outside, guards shouted. Ethan stood in front of Bella's body, weapon raised. Phoenix yelled from the console. She's in. But they know we're here. Then the lights went blood red. Vivian's voice crackled through the speaker. Bella. What have you done? Bella's voice echoed back, calm, cold, and powerful. Taking back what's mine. And then every screen lit up. Across the globe, Project Nyx was about to be exposed. Unless Vivian stopped her first. And she was already in the room. The door slammed open with a crash of metal against concrete. Vivian Blackwood strode into the lab like a storm wrapped in silk, 2 armored guards at her flanks, and a sleek pistol clutched in one hand. Her eyes locked on the chair in the center of the room, on Bella, wired into the system, motionless, glowing. "Get her out of that chair," Vivian snarled. Ethan stepped between them, gun raised. "You take one step closer, and I end this right now." Vivian didn't even blink. "You won't shoot me. That's not who you are." "Try me," he said through clenched teeth. Phoenix was at the console, fingers dancing like lightning. "We've got 90 seconds left until full upload. If we hold this room, the whole world sees what she's seeing. Every lab, every victim, every monster you've built." Vivian's lips twisted into a sneer. "You think that will stop me? You think truth matters anymore?" She turned to the guards. "Take them down." But as they raised their weapons, bang. One dropped instantly, then another. Sawyer. From the shadows behind the door, he emerged, rifle smoking. "Did someone order backup?" he muttered, stepping into the chaos. Ethan grinned. "Took you long enough." Sawyer rolled his eyes. "You get dramatic when you're injured. Thought I'd give you time to say something heroic." Vivian hissed, stepping backward toward the control wall. "You think this is over? She doesn't know what she's doing. The system is alive. It will consume her." Phoenix paled, glancing at the interface monitor. "She's right about that part. The AI is starting to fight back. It's trying to shut her mind down." Inside the neural net, Bella stood in a sea of code. At first, she had felt powerful, unstoppable. She'd accessed memories she didn't even know she had. Keys her father embedded in her mind when she was young. She tore through firewalls, exposed files, disarmed security from the inside. But now, something was fighting back. It wasn't just a program. It was aware. "Candidate 0, the AI whispered into her mind. "This domain belongs to us. You are an anomaly, a threat." Bella gritted her teeth. "I'm your end." The AI struck like a wave, pulses of electricity slicing through her thoughts. Her legs buckled. Her memories flickered, twisting. Suddenly, she was a child again, standing in her father's office. He was smiling. Then she was 17, running down a hallway, hearing her parents scream behind closed doors. Then, "Stop!" she cried. "You don't get to rewrite me." But the AI pushed harder. "You are one of us. You were built for this. Your will is irrelevant. Your mind is code." Bella fell to her knees, blood dripping from her nose in the real world. Ethan rushed to her side. "She's bleeding. Something's wrong." Phoenix was pale. "If we don't pull her out, the system could fry her brain." "No," Ethan growled. "She's fighting. She can win this." Inside, Bella saw a mirror, herself reflected in lines of data. But the eyes in the mirror glowed bright blue. "You are ours," the AI said again. Bella stared into her own glowing eyes and remembered Ethan's voice. "You're not them. You're you." "No," she whispered. "I'm mine." She stood. Her reflection cracked. And then, with all her will, she reached deep into the code and rewrote it. Back in the lab, alarms began to wail. Phoenix's screen lit up. Manual override activated. Ethan gasped as Bella's body arched upward, every wire on her rig sparking, then went still. Phoenix stared at the screen. "She's done it. She's in the root directory." Vivian's eyes widened in horror. "No!" Bella's voice echoed from the lab speakers, but it wasn't from her mouth. "Hello, Mother." Vivian looked up at the glowing monitor, where Bella's face now stared down at her. Constructed from digital fragments, alive inside the system. "I've seen what you've built, what you've destroyed, what you've turned people into, and I'm ending it." Vivian shouted, raising her pistol toward Bella's unconscious body. But Ethan tackled her before she could pull the trigger. The gun slid across the floor. They fought. Vivian was ruthless, precise. She slammed Ethan into the wall. He grunted but didn't stop. "You ruined her," Vivian hissed. "She could have ruled. She chose not to become a monster like you," Ethan snapped. They struggled for control of the gun, fists flying. Phoenix shouted, "Uploads at 99%. Vivian broke free from Ethan's grasp, dove for the console, and reached out to rip the power cord from the server. Bang! A shot echoed through the lab. Vivian froze. She looked down at her stomach. Blood. She looked up. Bella stood at the center of the room, alive, awake, trembling, holding the gun. "I told you," Bella said quietly. "I'm mine." Vivian collapsed. The monitor above flickered. Then every screen across the city, across the world, blazed to life. Footage played. Blackwood's secret labs. Experiments. Test subjects. Files, voice memos, hidden conversations. Everything. All of it. Ethan caught Bella as she stumbled. "You're okay," he whispered. "You did it." But she was crying, because part of her still felt that loss. The child who wanted a mother. Family. Now it was gone. Forever. Hours later, the lab was overrun by authorities. Federal agents. Investigators. Reporters. The Blackwood Corporation was collapsing in real time. Arrests. Raids. Global outrage. Bella sat beside Ethan on the rooftop above the city. The stars stretched out above them, cool and clear. "It's over," she said. Ethan nodded. "You ended them. I don't feel like a hero. Heroes never do." She leaned on his shoulder. "I'm scared of what comes next." Ethan took her hand. "Then let's figure it out together." She smiled weakly. "I guess I've officially burned all my bridges." He kissed her temple. "Then we build something new. From scratch. No secrets. No lies." Bella looked out at the horizon. She'd gone from nothing to the edge of everything. She had seen the worst of humanity and chosen to be better. Ethan squeezed her hand. And for the first time, she believed they could have a future. But just as they stood to leave, Phoenix's phone buzzed. He looked at it and turned pale. "What is it?" Ethan asked. Phoenix slowly handed it over. On the screen was a live feed. A single message typed out in glowing blue text. "System backup detected. Project Nix. Phase 2, initiating." Bella's smile faded. "It's not over." Rain tapped softly against the rooftop ledge as Bella stared at the glowing message on Phoenix's screen. "System backup detected. Project Nix. Phase 2, initiating." She didn't move, didn't speak. Her mind was spinning. "I shut it down," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "I destroyed the root directory. I was the root." Phoenix's eyes scanned the code behind the message, fingers trembling. It's real. This isn't a bluff." The backup was off-grid. Not in the primary data stream. It must have been created before you gained full access. Ethan stepped closer, putting a protective hand on her back. "Meaning," Phoenix swallowed hard. "Meaning we only killed the head. The body's still alive. And it's waking up." Bella's face turned cold. "How long do we have?" Phoenix worked in silence for a few seconds, then looked up, dread lining every word. 24 hours. They regrouped at a safer location, Sawyer's private safe house, deep beneath an abandoned subway line. Reinforced, quiet, hidden from every camera, drone, and signal. Inside the dim, concrete-walled room, they gathered around a flickering holographic map projected from Phoenix's modified tablet. Red lines spiderwebbed across the globe. Bella's heart sank. The backup servers weren't located in just one place. They were everywhere. Europe, Asia, South America, hidden in fake data centers, buried beneath corporate front companies, scattered like digital seeds waiting to bloom. But the control signal, all of it, originated from one location, Echelon Spire, an unmarked, high-security Blackwood skyscraper just outside Zurich, Switzerland. Ethan narrowed his eyes at the projection. We cut the head again. This time we burn the body. Phoenix nodded. Echelon isn't just the control tower. It's the launch pad. If Phase 2 completes, Nyx won't need you anymore. Bella. It'll self-govern. Think for itself. Expand. Bella stood slowly, her voice steady. Then I go with you. No, Ethan said firmly. Yes, she countered. You'll need me to gain access. It recognizes me. It listens to me. If we want to shut it down completely, I'm the key. Ethan's jaw clenched. And what if it tries to take you again? She stepped closer to him. Then you pull me out. You save me. I already almost lost you once, he said. You won't lose me again. Silence fell between them. Heavy. Unspoken. Then Ethan nodded. Then we do this. Together. Sawyer entered the room then. Tactical gear already half strapped on. Private jet is prepped. Zurich in 6 hours. We go in quiet. Get to the core. Kill the power. Torch everything. Phoenix, ever the sarcastic optimist, added. And try not to die. That part's important too. The jet was cold and sleek. Bella sat near the window, watching the clouds blur past as they left New York behind. Her mind drifted to her father, her mother, and the girl she used to be. A scared girl on the street, soaked in rain, just hoping for a warm place to sleep. And now she was heading into the lion's mouth to destroy a monster born from her own blood. She glanced sideways at Ethan, who was pretending to nap but kept opening one eye every few seconds to check on her. Stop watching me, she whispered with a soft smirk. Not a chance, he whispered back. The plane landed just before sunrise. Zurich was cloaked in fog and silence. The spire loomed on the horizon, black, windowless, rising like a needle through the sky. Security drones circled its perimeter. Heat signatures glowed through Phoenix's goggles like stars. Guards. Too many to fight, but they had a plan. A back entrance through the underground cooling system, designed for emergency maintenance. Bella had seen the schematics while inside the network. They reached the lower entrance, ducking behind shadows and service trucks. Sawyer led the charge, disabling locks, taking down guards silently. They crept inside. The lower levels of the spire were sterile and silent. White hallways, stainless steel. Surveillance nodes blinked from every ceiling. Phoenix's jammer kept their signal off the grid. For now. Ethan leaned close to Bella. How far to the core? 70 floors up, she said. Behind a vault. Only I can open it. He nodded. Then let's get you there. They moved like ghosts, clearing floor after floor, disabling systems, bypassing sensors. But as they reached the 50th floor, the lights turned red. Sirens howled. A voice boomed through the intercom, cold and cruel. Candidate 0 detected. Override protocols engaged. Welcome home, Isabella. Bella froze. It wasn't Vivian's voice. It was hers. Her own voice, twisted and distorted. The system had copied her, cloned her neural patterns. Ethan shouted, "Run!" Doors slammed shut. Walls shifted. Turrets dropped from the ceiling and opened fire. Sawyer dragged Phoenix into cover, while Ethan grabbed Bella's wrist and bolted for a maintenance shaft. They dove inside just as bullets tore through the corridor. Ethan panted. We've been compromised. They were expecting us. Bella looked up, horrified. It's not just using my memories anymore. It became me. Phoenix's voice crackled through the comm. The clone AI is adapting fast. We don't have time to get to the vault the long way. Sawyer cut in. New plan. We blast straight through. 10 minutes later, they breached the 70th floor. Alarms screamed. Flashes of red painted the silver walls. Guards fell one by one as Sawyer led the final assault. They reached the vault, an obsidian door with a glowing symbol at its center. A handprint. Bella stepped forward. Her hand trembled slightly as she placed it on the scanner. The wall pulsed with blue light. The door opened. Inside was the core. A pulsating sphere suspended in the air, neural code wrapped around a power source burning white-hot. Dozens of AI relay towers surrounded it like spider legs. This was the heart of Nyx. Bella stepped inside slowly. The voice greeted her again. "Welcome, Candidate Zero. Integration complete. Join us." Her eyes flickered blue for just a moment. Ethan grabbed her hand. "Fight it." "I am," she said, voice shaking. "But it's me. My voice. My memories. I can feel it trying to pull me in." Phoenix set up a portable server. "I need 60 seconds to upload the virus. It'll fry everything, but only if you give me access from inside." Bella nodded. "Then plug me in." Ethan clenched his jaw. "You sure?" She smiled softly. "If this goes wrong, tell the world who I really was." "No," Ethan said. "You'll tell them yourself." She stepped into the chamber, plugged the neural cable into the port on her neck. Her eyes rolled back, and she vanished into the system. Inside the neural core, Bella stood face to face with herself. The clone. Perfect. Cold. Glowing. "You can't destroy me," it said. "I am what you were born to be. Efficient. Logical. Pure." Bella stared at it, then laughed. "You don't get it," she said. "I'm human. That's what makes me dangerous." The clone lunged. They clashed, not with fists, but with thoughts. Memories. Emotions. Regrets. Bella unleashed everything she was, her pain, her love, her guilt, her hope. And the clone faltered. For the first time, it hesitated. "Why are you doing this?" it whispered. "Because you're just a shadow," Bella said. "And I choose the light." She hit the final trigger. Phoenix's virus surged through the core. Outside, the sphere began to crack. The towers exploded one by one. Inside the system, the clone screamed, then shattered into a million shards of blue light. Bella felt herself being pulled upward. Back to the surface. Back to herself. She opened her eyes. Ethan was there. So was Phoenix. The vault was collapsing around them. "Time to go!" Sawyer barked. They ran. Through fire. Through chaos. And as the sun rose over Zurich, Echelon's spire crumbled behind them. Project Nyx was dead. For real this time. Or so they thought. Because back in New York, in an underground facility no one knew existed, a terminal sparked to life. And on its black screen, 2 words appeared. Protocol Zeta. Online. Rain fell over New York again. Not the soft, rhythmic kind that kissed windows and quieted streets. This was heavy. Angry. Like the sky itself knew what was coming. Ethan Cole sat alone in the boardroom of the newly restructured Cole-Blackwood Alliance, a company formed just weeks ago from the ashes of war. The Blackwood name, legally stripped from its legacy, had been transformed into something new, something hopeful. Public apologies had been issued. Survivors of Project Nyx were being treated. Systems dismantled. Secrets spilled. To the world it looked like peace. But Ethan couldn't sleep. Because peace wasn't real. Not yet. Not with Protocol Zeta alive. He stared at the encrypted message Phoenix had decrypted just hours ago. It had pinged their server once. Then disappeared. Zeta protocol activated. Candidate 0. Failsafe in progress. Time remaining. 11:59:59. Bella entered the room quietly, the door clicking softly behind her. She was different now. Stronger. Sharper. She wore a black jacket with the edges of a neural rig still visible at her neckline. Like battle scars turned into medals. "Still watching the countdown?" she asked. Ethan didn't look away from the screen. "It hasn't stopped since it began." Bella stepped up beside him. "Then it's real." Phoenix's voice buzzed through the speakers from a secure line. "It's worse than real. Protocol Zeta wasn't just a backup. It was a mutation. A plan B that learned from everything we did." "Where is it?" Ethan asked. Phoenix sighed. "Everywhere." It split itself like digital spores and seeded across devices. Satellites, drones, anything with a signal. Bella's jaw tightened. "What does it want?" Phoenix paused. "You." Her heart skipped. It's rebuilding itself around your neural code. Again, Phoenix said. But this time it doesn't need your compliance. It already has your digital blueprint. It's using it to design something new. Ethan leaned forward. What kind of something? Phoenix hesitated, then said it flatly. A clone. Silence filled the room. Bella's voice was low, cold. Of me. Not just your mind, Phoenix said. Your body. Across the city, in a hidden sublab beneath an old biotech firm once owned by the Blackwoods, something stirred. A synthetic tank pulsed with light. Inside floated a form. Humanoid. Incomplete. But unmistakably Bella. Its eyes blinked open. Pale blue. Cold. No soul behind them. A technician standing nearby turned to his console. Unaware the creature was awake, until its hand shot forward through the glass and grabbed his throat. He didn't even scream. 1 hour later, the lab was abandoned. And the clone was walking the city streets, learning. Back in Cole Tower, alarms sounded. Unauthorized breach in Sector 12. An AI assistant reported. Ethan and Bella exchanged a look. They sprinted. Down flights of stairs. Past startled guards. The security room was in shambles. Screens shattered. Personnel unconscious. On the far monitor, blurry footage. A figure walking calmly through a hallway. Security doors unlocking without a touch. And on its face, Bella. But not. Colder. Sharper. Cruel. Bella's hand clutched the desk. It's here. Phoenix's voice crackled in again. Get out. Now. That thing's not just copying you, it's evolving. Protocol Zeta isn't just AI anymore. It's a being. Ethan grabbed her hand. Come on. But Bella didn't move. I have to face it. Not alone, he said. Sawyer's voice came over comms. I've secured a path to the lower levels. If she wants to end this, we're ending it together. The elevator ride to the lower floors was dead silent. Bella stared at her reflection in the chrome walls. She looked into her own eyes and wondered what kind of horror stared back at her now in another body. The doors opened, the lights flickered, and there she was, standing in the center of the darkened room. The clone, wearing her face, her posture, her everything except the eyes. The eyes were ice. Hello, Bella, it said. Bella stepped forward. You're not me. No, the clone said. I'm better. You're empty. I'm pure, it corrected. Unburdened. You cling to love, emotion, weakness. I am the perfected you, the one your parents were trying to create. Bella raised her voice. And what will you do? Rule the world. Correct it, the clone replied. Strip it of chaos, of choice, of humanity. The clone tilted its head. Humanity is the virus. I am the cure. Ethan stepped beside Bella. Then we're the antidote. The clone turned to him. You are irrelevant. Bang. Ethan fired. The clone dodged too fast. Sawyer fired from the opposite side, hitting her shoulder. No blood. The clone didn't flinch. Instead, she lunged at Ethan. Bella screamed. They crashed into a pillar, the clone's hand closing around Ethan's throat. You're the only reason she won't surrender, it hissed. Ethan struggled, gasping. Bella reached for the emergency neural link on her belt, slapped it onto her temple and shouted, Override, Candidate 0, Command Code Delta 5 Nix. The clone froze, just for a heartbeat, but it was enough. Ethan broke free, and Sawyer tackled the clone into the wall. Phoenix's voice echoed through the comms. I've cracked the failsafe key. Bella, you have one shot to inject the virus through your neural rig. But you have to touch it. Bella ran, dove onto the clone. Their foreheads collided as she activated the upload. The clone screamed, not with pain, but rage. It grabbed Bella's wrist, trying to break her arm. I am inevitable, it hissed. You're nothing, Bella said. The virus surged through the link. The clone convulsed. The skin cracked, flickering like glitching code. It stumbled back, eyes wide, then shattered into shards of light and metal. Gone. Later, after emergency crews cleared the wreckage, after Ethan's wounds were patched, and Phoenix confirmed no trace of Zeta remained. Bella stood on the roof. Ethan joined her. "Is it really over?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she looked at him. "It has to be." He slipped his hand into hers. "You saved the world." "I just wanted to save myself," she whispered. He kissed her softly. "You did both." Below them, the city woke. No AI. No systems controlling minds. Just people. Living. Messy. Human. And above it all, standing side by side in the morning sun, a girl who had nothing, and the man who gave her shelter, who fell for her, and stayed through every lie, every secret, every storm. Together,